Order. Question number 2. Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Does he stand by his statement that reducing tariffs on construction materials will save, quotes, about $3,500 for a new home, end quotes? If so, when will new home buyers see these savings?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand by my full statement last year that removing tariffs and duties is expected to save around $3,500 on the construction of a standard New Zealand home. Officials estimate the removal of anti-dumping duties was expected to provide the majority of the savings, around about $2,600. The remaining $900 of savings was expected from the removal of tariffs. In respect of the second part of the question, I'm advised that the benefits could take some time to completely pass through to new homeowners as building businesses develop new supply arrangements offshore.
Supplementary.
Supplementary. Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Has he read the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment report, Housing Affordability, Outlook and Opportunities, which states, quote, any cost reductions from the removal of tariffs and duties is likely to be captured by the developers rather than passed on to consumers, end quotes. And if so, why does the centrepiece of his 2014 budget give thousands to property developers and nothing to families?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, firstly, it wasn't the centrepiece of the government's budget, but no, I haven't read that report, but we live in a competitive world in housing, and any removal of duties and tariffs does actually help reduce the cost, and therefore is likely to be passed on to consumers. Second thing I'd say, Mr. Speaker, is that I checked with the MB officials before I came to the House this afternoon, and they advised me that they continue to stand by the view that the savings are in the order of magnitude $3,500 that they indicated to the government at the time the announcement was made. Yes, it was, my boy.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, Andrew. Order. It's not acceptable for this chatter to go on between both front benches. Andrew Little, supplementary question.
In view of the fact that he hasn't read the report.
Order. I'll ask the member to start again.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In view of the fact that he hasn't read the report, has he perhaps been advised of another passage in the report which states the price impact of the government's special housing projects is negligible, and why does he insist on using piffling half measures against a full-blown housing crisis?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, well, there isn't a housing crisis. There's certainly a demand for houses, and that in part reflects the fact that the government's doing such a good job that New Zealanders are no longer leaving for Australia in droves like they did when Helen Clark was the Prime Minister.
Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Given that under his watch, Auckland house prices went up by $91,000 last year alone, rising more than 35 times faster than the median family income, Dr. Smith, is he at all surprised that home ownership is at its lowest level in generations?
Well, Speaker,
right Honourable Prime Minister.
The Minister of Housing is quite right in his interjection. House prices doubled under Labor. Interest rates were driven to 10.9%. The Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet spent 5 years providing advice to Helen Clark of what to do about the housing issues in Auckland, and as per normal, Labor did absolutely nothing about it. This government has set about solving those issues. Interest rates are lower. 100 special housing areas have been established. House construction is taking place at now levels back where they were in 2008. Mr. Speaker, we're getting on top of the problem.
Supplementary.
You're dreaming.
Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Why doesn't the member support home stuff?
Order.
You cut it first of all.
Order. Andrew Little, supplementary question.
Is he aware of the MB's report's conclusion that a large public sector house building program is the, quote, most likely means to overcome the majority of Auckland's dwelling shortfall inside 10 years, end quotes? And if so, when is he going to get real on housing and sign up to Labor's Kiwi Build?
Mr. Speaker,
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd be very surprised if that was the conclusion drawn by MB. But, Mr. Speaker, If the member really thinks the government getting out there building houses is the solution to the housing problem, then why doesn't he suggest that the government should be out there building schools and hospitals and roads and everything else? Because they don't. The private sector do it, and they do it very successfully.
They always have.
Supplementary.
What's new about that?
Supplementary question. Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now that his own officials are recommending he adopt Kiwi Build, will he drop his ideological blinkers and get on with actually building affordable homes, or is he putting politics before families yet again?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, no, we won't be adopting Labor's failed policies, and I predict over the course of the next 6 to 12 months, Mr. Parker knows what's coming. He's quiet as a little church mouse these days. Most of the policies that Labor did announce are gone by lunchtime, morning tea time and anything else.
Order, Mr. Speaker.
That was a bit...
Order. Point of order, Andrew Little.
Mr. Speaker, I seek leave in light of the answers to that question to table the report of the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment called Housing Affordability.
Order that report is available to all members to source. Question number 3. Order. Dennis O'Rourke, question number